Highland Falls, Fort Montgomery Central School District. What does a truly anti-racist school system look like to you?
Other kids that are growing up now have more opportunities and feel like they can be something other than just like a random kid in Highland Falls that doesn't make it out of here. So my name is Deshaun Graham. I graduated from James Al Neal in 2015. I'm currently a professional volleyball player in the NBA, the first professional volleyball league in the U.S., and a coach at Pace University.
Hey, my name is Desiree Talley. I'm 28 years old and I'm a 2010 graduate of O'Neill High School.
What I'm here today for is to talk to you about possible change that needs to happen in the Highland Falls Central School District. Growing up, I believe that I got where I am today a lot because of like personal perseverance, not really because of the people that were around me. So the changes that I feel like that need to happen are there needs to be a better upbringing of the African American and Latino and Latina youth that are in Highland Falls. I feel as though there really isn't much guidance.
Like, you changing the mascot is not like, are you gonna change the mascot and then like have a discussion about why you did it and what it represents and why it's wrong? You know what I mean? Or are you just gonna change it to please the people that have complained about it, that already know those things, you know? It's like when you have the opportunity to mold young minds, you have to use that, you know, to your advantage. Like, you have to teach them everything you possibly can.
I am biracial or multi-race. My mother's white and my father is African American and Hispanic. So obviously I can identify with a lot of different people. I grew up in a very mixture and race family. I have cousins that are all different ethnicities and colors, and a lot, you know, cousins that don't look like me, cousins that look just like me. So I always grew up in a very cultural environment. Growing up in Highland Falls, I always felt like I had a lot of Hispanic and Black friends, and what I didn't realize at the time was just that we were the only ones. So even though it seemed like a large group of us, we were the only Black and Hispanic people. And my first college roommate went through my yearbook when I got to college, and she asked me why I didn't have any Black friends. And I laughed at her and grabbed my yearbook and just started to look through it. And I realized that although I had Black friends that I hung out with inside and outside of school, those friends weren't on the basketball team and they weren't in the clubs I was in. And they just didn't do things that would get them a picture in the yearbook, aside from just their like senior photo. So
like, I feel like we just needed like more positive,
like did you have like do you feel like you need, or like do you feel like you needed somebody that looked like you to be like, hey, you can do it? Like, hey, I grew up in like difficult times, or, you know, I grew up being a Black male and I know what it feels like to maybe be the outcast, or, you know, maybe be the minority, and to maybe have people look at me differently, but these are ways I got through it, you know. Do you feel like you needed somebody like that?
I felt like a lot of kids my age like really like rely on sports like way too much to get them through life around here, and I feel like that's all that kids think that they can be. So then once they graduate high school, they don't know what to do anymore because they don't have things like that, because there's nobody in their life telling them that you can go to college, or like you can own your own business, or you can do things like that. And there's also a lot of people that don't look like people like me that are like the people that you're supposed to be listening to in these schools. So I feel like if we make those changes and allow more opportunities for like African American or like Latino or Latina teachers to be there, so they can see that this is something that you can become. Because it's like, you don't really have, when you don't have people that look like you in a school system that's not really doing much to make you feel like you can be someone, it's very hard for someone to gain that confidence on their own. And I feel like we need a better upbringing where from a younger age that will allow you to already have it set in place that this is where you're going to be from years from now, not just going with the flow throughout life, like just saying like I'm barely getting by. And I felt like a lot of times that's how it was for me going through the school system. Like, I had to be committed on my own. I didn't really have anyone that was pressuring me or that was like guiding me in the right direction to say, hey, like, you can do this, like you can be more than just that kid that played basketball in school, or more than like just that athlete. Like, you can be that kid that is gonna get straight A's. You can be that kid that's at the top of the class. You can do all those things. But I feel like children in our area just need like a bigger push out of the school system. I don't think the school system did anything terrible at all, but I feel like there's a lot more that they can be doing than what they're doing now.
You know, we didn't go to college to learn about the potato famine in Ireland because we learned about that in our schools. So we need to talk about Black and African heritage in our schools. It needs to be a part of our social studies, and we need to read about Black heroes, and we need to read books by Black authors, and it shouldn't just be on summer reading lists because those are optional. It should be required readings and required texts in the classroom that all students have to take. And I think that should be something that the school should focus on.
First of all, my name is Malik Hunter. I was born and raised in Highland Falls. Family is out here. With the school system, I will say this. I went to a variety of alternative schools dealing with this school system. And at a young age, 17, 18, was lost, did some bad things, criminal acts, went to jail. And it's funny, it was really funny to me that jail was a way better education with, my culture and my ethnicity and my nationality, way better than a school system that was supposed to teach me, along those things, and not just, arithmetic and science and social studies and things like that, teach me about myself, about our nation, how it was, brought up and stuff like that.
And I was done a disservice in my education, even though I went to private school and then O'Neill High School, and I grew up here, my family's from here, but I didn't have my first Black teacher until I was a junior in high school. And I feel like I lost out on that perspective just as much as my students of color around me missed out on that perspective. And it was more unfair to them because how are you supposed to feel welcome in a classroom that doesn't have your perspective? Our school district as a whole, I don't know how many people of color they employ, whether from janitory to actual teachers. And I feel like that's wrong. I feel like we should see every single face of color from every single culture in every single grade, and there should be representation throughout, from kindergarten. It shouldn't be until college that you have your first experience with a cultured professor that's not from your culture.
All right, my name is Richard Talley. I'm 52, I'm born and raised in Highland Falls. I've been living here my whole life. I probably left the town maybe 8 months out of a year at one time and all. I've been here, I've raised my kids here. I've experienced racism at some levels as a youth growing up in Highland Falls, just for the same things of coming to the pool in the summertime and the pool closes at 6, they kick all the kids out, all the Black kids out. But you come back at 6:30 and all white kids are still in the pool swimming. But we can't swim and we're just standing out there looking and wondering what's going on. Why can't we swim too?
About gay history, and a lot of gay people wouldn't have any rights whatsoever if it wasn't for the Black activist Marsha P. Johnson, who threw the first brick at Stonewall riots. So I guess education from a ground level standpoint of Black history throughout, because it's throughout all of us that we've learned, and it's not something that we should have to venture out on our own to get that knowledge and education. It should be given to us from our high school, from our middle school standpoints. I don't want to make it a gay issue, but
No, I feel like that's another thing. Racism is a focus that we're focusing on, but if you're going to be diverse and inclusive, people need to understand the definition. It's not just about the color of your skin.
My name is Ariana Lopez Gonzalez. I'm 17 years old. I'm from Highland Falls, New York, and I'm a former student of James I. O'Neill. I come from a small town where people think that normally there is no treating people different, there's no issues going on, but there's a lot of issues, especially in the school district, and I have experienced a lot of it. I had to transfer into online schooling because of bullying and racism at my school, and I didn't get to experience normal high school things like homecomings and proms because of the way people treated me, because I look different, because of my race, and it's not okay.
I did get an email from the superintendent and I read through it. I didn't respond because I want this video to be my response, but it was extremely performative, and I would challenge you to just take a look at all of the stuff that you sent me that the school has been doing to be more diverse and inclusive over the last 5 years, and just take a look at it and realize that we were not in the largest civil rights movement in the world 5 years ago, and that our students and our parents and our residents and community members were not out protesting 5 years ago, and there were not riots 5 years ago. So for you to assume that what you were doing 5 years ago or even last year is enough is wrong. It's wrong. You're doing your students a disservice by not taking what's going on in the world and putting together something that's going to help your students understand their culture, their heritage, and what's going on in the world. It's your obligation as an educator and as an administrator to implement those things in your classrooms. Your students are out here protesting in the street. The parents of your students are home crying when they see Black people being killed in the street. Somebody needs to explain this to them. We can't just let them know that this is normal behavior. We need to explain to them that it's happening because our systems are broken. And it needs to start in the education system. You cannot rely on parents to have these difficult conversations with their children, because you have white children at home whose parents think that the Black Lives Matter movement is stupid. And you have parents at home that will not explain to their white children that Black people should be equal to white people. So it is up to you as an educator to let that white child know what is going on and the terminology within racism and biases and prejudice and systematic versus systemic. Those are terms that you should learn in school. You shouldn't have to do your own research for. And I would encourage you to find a way to implement that in your school when you guys go back in September.